here to talk it through. Former Liberal MP Nicole Flint and One Nation Senator for New South Wales, Sean Bell. Great to have both of you with us. Can I start with you, Nicole? Obviously, it's a mess. And if there was any chance the coalition might have been able to scrape into victory at the next election, well, they've blown that up. This week should have been, should it not, Nicole, about the Prime Minister's handling post-Bondi and his failures on anti-Semitism.
Yes, it should have, Steve. And I think the last time that any of us can recall the coalition in such disarray was during the Hawke-Keating era. The problem for the Australian people is that Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers are no Hawke and no Keating. So it's not just their complete inability to handle this disgraceful, devastating anti-Semitism crisis. We have the worst cost of living crisis in a very long time, in generations, record power prices, interest rates are indicated to go up again in February. There's a lot of prediction that we'll see them go up. So people are under pressure in every single way. And as we know, since October 7, 2023, Anthony Albanese and the Federal Labor Party have failed, utterly failed to tackle anti-Semitism and the threat to our Jewish Australians. And they have failed to tackle Islamic extremism. Until very recently, they couldn't even say those words. So I sincerely hope that the coalition can put themselves back together. They have in the past. We are one of the most successful, long-standing coalitions in the world, and we are always stronger together. So I hope they get back together as quickly as possible and start rightly focusing on the range of catastrophic failures by the Albanese Labor government.
I'll get to Sean in a second, but Nicole, I mean, you've been a senior Liberal federal MP. You're very well respected. And I make the point that South Australian Liberal Party, the Victorian Liberal Party and the Federal Liberal Party seem much more worried about their own internal politics than they do about getting rid of what is a particularly bad, as you make the point, Labor government. Why?
Well, to be fair, we now have two fantastic leaders. We've got Jess Wilson in Victoria and Ashton Hearn in South Australia. And regardless of the results at the upcoming Victorian and South Australian elections, they're both incredibly impressive women who are doing a very good job in difficult circumstances. And I would say the same about Susan Lee. Look, we had the worst result for the Federal Liberal Party since 1943, when the party didn't exist last election. And I was part of that, as viewers would know. So Susan has taken on the federal job in the most difficult of circumstances. And whatever you think of her, I can only compare the chance that she's been given by colleagues to that which happened to Brendan Nelson in 2008, 2009. Brendan wasn't given a chance to actually try and have a go, and I don't think Susan has been given much of a chance. Whatever you may think of how she has performed, she hasn't really had a lot of clear air, and we have just had our most catastrophic loss since 1943.
Sean, this is all playing into the hands of One Nation. Welcome to the program. Great to join you. I mean, this has been a breakdown on policy position, really. I mean, the Nats and the Libs couldn't agree, and David Littleproud's jumped up and down and walked out. Do you believe that this might, in fact, even make the One Nation position even better?
I mean, Steve, it's very humbling to see the surge of support the party's been receiving, but I'm not happy for what we've seen over the last few days in Parliament. Anthony Albanese terribly mismanaged the fallout from the Bondi tragedy. And we were supposed to be there to deal with the issue of radical Islamic extremism and making Australians safer. And I can tell you this farcical process that we went through and the way that the legislation was dumped on our desks, and this wasn't the legislation we spent a week looking at, this was a brand new bill that was significantly different, and the Labor Party and the coalition, they came up with a deal behind closed doors to pass it that day. And I can guarantee you that that legislation, if the Labor government has the will to even use it, will have flaws, will have loopholes, and it will be exploited by those that they seek to keep us safe from, which means the Australians are still in danger. So the very reason we were there, and this is the Albanese Labor government's failure, the very reason we were there, I do not believe the result was achieved. And that's because the Liberal government and the Nationals essentially snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, which is a shame because this is a very bad Labor government and they need to be held to account and they need to be defeated. And that is what One Nation is focused on doing. We're not focused on the party politics. We've got a very strong and stable leadership. But we are focused on holding this Albanese Labor government to account, keeping Australians safe.
What part of the bill worried you the most?
Steve, there was a number of elements there, and we know that there was concerns from the Labor Party and the Liberal Party because they took out a whole section of racial vilification, and instead they tried to insert a fix on that into the definition of harm, and that then took into account every state legislation. Now, they claim there are checks and balances in place, but I can tell you right now, when you've got the Liberal Party and the Labor Party coming up with closed-door fixes without transparency, without submissions, and without a committee stage process, those solutions they parrot or they champion, no one can have confidence in them. No one can be sure when push comes to shove if they will work because there wasn't a proper process followed. And at the end of the day, that's what we were calling for. That's why I moved an amendment to have a short, sharp, investigative committee referral so we could iron out any flaws to make this the best legislation possible, because that's how you keep Australians safe, not with rushed, shoddy, farcical process like we saw over the last few days from the Albanese Labor government and the coalition.
Of what you know of the legislation, Nicole, it seems like it is very loose when it comes to things like freedom of speech. Are you worried about that legislation? Because it's now passed, it's now law.
I'm hugely concerned, Steve. And when we were chatting last week, I outlined my concerns, and they were not alleviated by the bill as it finally passed. There is no clear definition of hate speech, hate groups, and the huge concern is that people voicing reasonable opinions that are construed by any other group as so-called hate speech may well be captured by this legislation. So it's just gone way too far. It's way too broad. And we know with a very activist judiciary that we have these days, and with state and federal Labor governments in power in most of the nation, the real risk is that normal Aussies just voicing their opinions, particularly on social media, will be captured by this and then prosecuted and potentially subject to criminal prosecution. It's not just, you get a slap on the wrist or drag through the Human Rights Commission, as currently happens, which is awful, as we know. Look at Sal Grover's case. What an absolute travesty. But at least that's not at the criminal level, for goodness sake. So I'm hugely concerned about Australians' freedoms. That's just one part of what is rushed, poorly thought through legislation. And I sincerely hope that I'm wrong in my predictions. I don't think I will be. And there are some carve-outs for journalists. So hopefully we're protected here on Sky, but I bet that we're not. I bet that we will be targeted, as we always are, as I have been, as Peter Credlin has been, through whatever mechanism those who oppose our views can find.
Just want to quickly talk about Australia Day. Sean, we're going to have the same sorry marches and all through both Sydney, Melbourne, all of the cities of Australia. It's turned into that day. What do you think of that idea of mine that we actually turn Australia Day into something positive, where we spend time paying tribute to all of those magnificent men and women who are volunteers in this country?
I think it's a great idea, right? But in my mind, to me, Australia Day has always been something positive. I love Australia Day because I love Australia. And, my entire life it's been you celebrate it with a snag and you wave the flag. And so I think, and the good news is that it is a turning around. These views that people have held for so long, or at least I think the elites have held, that Australia Day shouldn't be celebrated, that, we can run down the country, is starting to shift, because I think especially young people are starting to see that this hatred and this division, it gets us nowhere. They're tired of it. And that's what we've at One Nation have always championed. This country is about everyone getting a fair go, everyone being equal. We need to love it, we need to celebrate it, and we need to celebrate our future together and not look back at the past, not tear each other down. So anything that improves that kind of unity that people want, I support. And so getting behind our volunteers, that's a great idea. And Australians should do that, and they should get behind Australia Day.
Absolutely. Nicole, in the 10 seconds we got left, I drove through Kingston in the southeast the other day. How does Kingston celebrate Australia Day?
Well, we have a local Australia Day ceremony that's led by council. We'll all go and wave to Larry the Lobster, our local icon. But Steve, I love your idea of recognising volunteers, because that's people who are not paid, who come together with people that they've never met to try and make and keep our nation a great place. And they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart, no matter what your background, no matter what your salary might be. So, yeah, we should absolutely celebrate that, because actually that's the essence of what it is to be an Aussie, just to have a go and to give back just because you can and just because you should.